Okay. So let's start the event. It's called Blockchain for Web Developers, how to start with DeFi, NFT, Dapps, etc. My name is Andy. I'm front-end developer here in Ciklum and specifically Quali system. The Quali system is more about, not about blockchain, it's about DevOps infrastructure. But on this talk, I will talk about my interest in blockchain development. For the last half year, I've built few dApps on blockchain with my own, with different people, and with some friends, with some colleagues from previous jobs, from Logica specifically. And so this talk generally is pretty basic. I'm not going to go into deep things, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. So if you will have some questions on the go, just type them in the chat and I will try to answer. Also, I'm still learning a lot of things, so I might know some areas of it, but again, what I know, I'm happy to share with you. Next, this is basic agenda. And this is about blockchain, how much people we have, 30, maybe let's start with simple poll in the chat. Can you write what blockchains specifically suitable for web development? You know, maybe someone already used it before, or if you don't know any, just maybe type in, I don't know any. So we will know what people here. Okay, I will type also, I know, Ethereum. No idea. Familiar with crypto, but not as dev. Used Ethereum platform 2 years ago. Oh, that's a good experience. Okay, so most people I see never used blockchain for web development. Okay, I got some list of blockchains, just random. There are a lot of blockchains around actually, suitable for development. That's just a few of them. And more arrives more and more new arrives each day. Especially this year, there are a lot of blockchains released, like Chia, Solana. Last year, Chia is a Solana. Chia developed by inventor, the person who invented torrent. Binance Smart Chain released by trading company Binance. Solana is some people from San Francisco. So there are a lot of blockchains, and they may be built in different way and have different goals. Like for example, IoTeX is aimed to for IoT devices versus browser applications like Solana, Chia, Ethereum, Binance, Bitcoin. Actually, Bitcoin also can be used for development, but it's really slow and nobody uses it. But it also can handle some operations, not only money transactions. Anyway, even it's very different how it's built, but it have very common features by the nature of it. And this blockchain features, it's some list I made. It can be much more items here. So we can say that any operation you do on blockchain, like information or transaction, are completely public and accessible by any participant of this network. So we can say it's pretty transparent. Also, this data is immutable, and these transactions and data on the network, and it's information widely available over blockchain and P2P networks. So we can say it's hard to censor or hard to kill. And actually, blockchain infrastructure itself built heavily on idea of P2P and this torrent, which was prerequisites for this kind of ideas also, and uses torrent for this day as well for file management, because it will be really hard to store gigabytes of information on the blockchain. Most blockchains use torrent system to store and get access to the files. Let's try to compare blockchain architecture with classic web architecture. Probably everyone is familiar with this so-called client-server architecture or Web 2.0 architecture. And here are some elements of it. Usually there are some clients like laptops, smartphones. It could be IoT devices as well. They use internet to access some server, some company server. Example could be Instagram. We can access Instagram server and ask them to store our images, our photo on their server. And on our request, they give us back this image. You will see it. We can ask them to do some manipulation with them. So basically, it's they have data, our data, and they give us access to this data. And other people also, they give access to this data if they allowed. So this example we can really use as basis for understanding blockchain, because in the blockchain architecture, we also have clients, same clients, laptops, smartphones, IoT devices, and they use internet to access some services or data. And we can say instead of client server, we have front end and backend API. In this case, front end will be our devices, and backend, or so-called, I called API, for example, it's actual blockchain. And same, like we have like Insta blockchain application, for example, which is built on top of blockchain, and we create calls to it, ask to store some data on blockchain. We can ask to get this data and change them. So for me, this idea of seeing this stuff like front end and API at the start was really helpful, and was really helpful to think about blockchain as some remote API. So for most cases, as web developers, you build web app with JS, and you use JS to make requests to blockchain, to read something similar to GET operation, edit something similar to POST. API written not in JS, but in some different languages, depending on blockchain. This is basic idea. So basically, with only this idea, you already can start a experiment with blockchain, just digging in some simple tutorials and trying to play with it. At really basic level, that might be enough. But if we will look deeper into so-called Web 3.0 architecture or blockchain architecture, we will find that we actually don't have so-called classic server in this case. So this backend API not really look like this, but it rather looks like this on right, P2P network. So instead of single company server or single company set of servers, we have P2P network of the devices like laptops, smartphones, sensors, any IoT devices. And we can call them like network citizens, for example. They play both roles of server and client. in this case. And this network is used to run actual blockchain. And this network, P2P network, is used to exchange data and files between players of this network. And this P2P network is used to validate all transactions inside this network. So players of the network make it secure and make it work, actually, without single authority, I would say. So we have a system which is always up and running because of tons of players. And on this image, I got it from the book Token Economy, as the author compare like single server and call it data monarchy versus data democracy, where you have a network of the devices instead of single authority. So what benefits it gives to you compared to classic architecture? It's become really hard to ban some players or your data, your personal data. For example, for Instagram or Facebook, you know, it's really easy to limit access to something or ban you, because the data actually belong to them, not to you. And also this network is always up and running, as I said, and also participants, I call them network citizens, because they actually can create some kind of decentralized organizations inside of this P2P network and act like a citizens to vote for something or have some benefits from network, like some tokens, some entire currency. And this network can be seen as separate network for each blockchain. So if we have Ethereum, it will be one network. If we have Solana or Binance network, it's separate. Bitcoin is separate network. But there a lot of work. Currently, there's a lot of work to make some cross-chain applications, some bridges between this network. So people trying to connect all these networks in some way, at least, or like migrate, give possibility to migrate data from one network to another one. Yeah, here's another example from this book, which shows centralized network versus decentralized. And after highlights that centralized have unique point of failure and decentralized is more secure because it doesn't have unique point of failure. So to summarize, often people from global blockchain community describe things or history in this way, that at the start in the 90s, we had some information economy when you could read news or sites without much entertainment between the players. And next era was platform economy in the early 2000s, when these gigantic platforms was born, like Facebook, YouTube, WordPress, Slack, etc. And games usually on the rules of the platform. And next phase is token economy with torrent, Bitcoin, Ethereum as main power horses to start this. So Bitcoin and Ethereum was first widely used blockchains, which Bitcoin actually first blockchain, and Ethereum was first, which provide possibility to program make programs on the blockchain. And we can say that read operation is available and free on this Web3 network. Write up if you want to write to blockchain, you usually need to pay for these transactions. Depends. The cost depends depends which blockchain you use. And players can also execute contracts, can execute program without third-party authority. So yeah, we'll continue. If you have any questions, or write it in the chat. So this slide is about front-end part. What I want to say with this, that for the most part, if you want to create decentralized application, for the most part, you will use same technologies you use in classic web applications. So HTML, CSS, JS, React, Webpack, Node Express, whatever you want to use, you can use it to build your application front end, your UI. And to communicate with blockchain, you need to use specific models to access blockchain and P2P networks, like getting some files, or do if you want to make some transaction, call some operations methods on the blockchain. There's a few examples of it, and MetaMask is actually add-on for browser. It used to communicate with blockchain and Truffle, and this waffle is used in development. Here's example of simple decentralized application, which is Counter. Classic example of Counter. In most parts, you will build it. For example, I will build it with React. It's pretty easy application. And when you want to communicate with blockchain, for example, let's say Ethereum, you need to set up connection with Ethereum. I actually skipped it. I was need to add like another section, like another 10 lines of code to build connection to blockchain Ethereum and call specific contract. And then when user click plus, you need to handle this action, calling this contract, calling this program from the Ethereum network, and it have method increment. You increment, and on success, on answer, you read what's the new value of this contract and update UI. It's pretty basic. And this is backend part, so-called backend. It's blockchain part. On the blockchain, we will have simple program. In case of Ethereum, it's program of Ethereum on the language called it Solidity. They invented their own language for this blockchain. And as you can see, the program pretty simple as well. So we have class counter, which is contract. We have some state, current number, which is publicly accessible, and have number uint type. We set up a default value, initial value, which is 0. And we add function increment, which is publicly accessible. And what it does, it increment current number. So yeah, it's from the example. What next? So is it clean? If anyone have questions, please ask them. So as you can see, this application can be written pretty easily, and no need to write a lot of codes. But yeah, of course, it's pretty simple application as well, just to give you an idea. So on the backend, we use smart contracts, so-called smart contracts, which is actually just a program. You can see them just a program which run in blockchain. They call it smart contracts just historically. They know not smart in any case, actually. They don't do nothing on its own. You need to program everything, just as usual backend API, for example. And there are a lot of languages used for this. And like each new blockchain uses different language. More, I would say this Ethereum network probably have support for most of the languages used today, most of popular languages like Java, Go, even it has own Solidity language, which is most popular from those. But if you have experience with C++ or Go, you can use it to program the smart contracts. So yeah, why is this vending machine here? So if you will read about smart contracts, this blockchain running programs, a lot of people compare them to vending machine, which give you some products like drinks, for example. Like you want to have some drink, you push some money, select what program you want, and ask it to start. It proceed your operation, and if it's successful, you put enough money, it give you drink. If it's not enough money, for example, or some error, it give you money back. It also manage changes to give you right money, which is on top of cost of the drink. So in nutshell, the smart contracts do exactly same thing. You pass the money and ask to run the program. If everything okay, briefly blockchain, JS closure. The question I will read now, what if you need to change the logic of some smart contract, but still need to keep the data of the previous contract version? How is it usually handled in different blockchain platforms? So if you create a smart contract and deployed it to the blockchain, you can't change it. Actually, you can't edit it. It's there forever. But yeah, there's some handles, some way to handle it, but I'm not familiar with it. For the most cases, you need to create new application, new program, or really care about testing it before deploying. That's why there are a lot of monitoring companies. It's really the really growing field of companies who just doing monitoring and checking your code for the errors. Like if you go to some decentralized application website, they usually they have kind of labels. Our code is checked by this firm and this firm and this firm, and they all say it's okay. So it's will not be hacked, for example, but change some smart. Is this question was about, or is this about keep the data on of the previous contract version? So the data will be kept in the contract previous version, because the new contract will have new data. Because
yes, I will elaborate verbally.
Yeah, sure.
It was about so when I used to work with the Ethereum platform, there was a problem. So once you deployed some smart contract and have spent some time working with it, so the contract populated some data inside.
Yeah.
Now you need to upgrade the logic, but keep the data. In centralized system, it's not a problem. We're just upgrading and that's it. We're keeping the data in some DB or database or whatever. But in smart contracts, the story is different. It is more difficult. And we had quite a hard time trying to solve this. So we're just curious if there are something new happened for the recent 2 years and new approaches for that. So we can actually create a new smart contract. Yes, it's possible. But what if you have, for example, a kilobytes of data? For blockchain, it's quite big amount of data, kilobytes, or tens of kilobytes, and you need to migrate it as well. You can actually physically do it, but you will pay a lot for in terms of fees, of transaction fees for blockchain. So maybe some approaches, of course, I understand it's quite a deep question. So maybe some approaches, libraries, or whatever that helps with that problem.
No, I'm not very familiar with it. How I understand, if you create new contract, you need to migrate data, because it's exactly actually, yeah, as you said, new program, new contract.
Yeah, that's the point. I don't want to migrate, but at the same time, I would like to change the logic.
Yeah. So how you handle it?
We handle it in that way that we created two different contracts. We created a contract which was very, very simple in terms of interface and function, very basic. It did nothing except, for example, get and set something in terms of data. And we created additional interface which kept the logic. And they just communicated with each other. When we need to change the contract, we just the logic, we just deployed a new contract, which was pointing to the data contract, the same data contract.
It's kind of bridge, yeah.
Yeah, looks like.
It's like bridge. Okay. So what I know about big data, so you can actually try not to store big data on the blockchain. That what we have. P2P networks like IPFS, for example. IPFS, which is intergalactic, interplanetary file system, it's called. And what it used as file management platform for blockchain and Ethereum specifically. So you store data on this platform at P2P, also P2P torrent-based platform. And on blockchain, you can store link to this platform, and on the platform itself, you can store the data. It's how it used to work for the most parts with what I have experienced. There are also other things like Airwave, which used to do same things. They store data permanently. Also very used for such things. And if you store a link, it's not so big data, like than storing some files, images, or whatever.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure. So what next? So yeah, I will add a slide about best blockchain for Dapps development on summer 2021, but it's really like opinionated personal choice. Actually, these platforms which I have experience to work with for the last half year. And Ethereum is most used for the moment. It's most popular platform. It's from 2015, already like 5-6 years around. It main language Solidity. And next, I would say, is Binance Smart Chain is actually really popular this year as well. It's released last year. It also uses Solidity because it's actually the fork of Ethereum. They're trying to make it much faster and much cheaper because Ethereum is quite slow and expensive network. For example, to do one transaction, it may cost you from $3, $5, $10, or even to $20. It was this summer, it was maximum peak I met was $20 for single transaction. It's okay if you want to do like single transaction to create, for example, NFT, your NFT item. But if you want to do some heavy loaded transactions for applications, for example, if you try to build chat on the blockchain, you need a lot of transactions, because each transaction you need to pay for each transaction when you send it. And if you do this chat on the Ethereum, each message will cost you $5 to $10, and it will take, I have a slide here, I think. The speed of Ethereum is 20 transactions per second. This means on practical level, it means that your operation will be validated in few minutes. So if you will send a message, recipient will give it in like few minutes. And Binance Smart Chain is much faster. Actually, was not able to find exact speed of it, but it felt like at least 10 times faster. It's really like take 10 seconds or something to do the transaction. And average cost is about $0.50 of transaction. And it deployed last year. So of course, with this older Ethereum, we have more proven reliability, more tools developed over time, and more information about it. It's a lot of like tons of tutorials and courses about using Ethereum. You can find it on YouTube only, like tons of videos and courses. But you can also use same information apply it to Binance, since it is fork of Ethereum. What else I've used it is Solana. It's pretty new blockchain, released this year at the I think January, February, and it has speed about 50K transaction per second. So it goes instantly. And they trying to update it to have, if I'm right, they want to have it about 500K transactions per second. So this is really close to speed of internet, for example. And average cost is like fraction of like, I don't know, $1,000. So if you want to play on main blockchain, on production version of blockchain, you need not many dollars to use. You can also play on development and test blockchains. It's kind of real blockchains, but they have fake money. It's used for development purposes. You can use any of them. All of them have like some test and development networks where you can load yourself with money and do these transactions. And then when you're ready, you can deploy it to the main network and start to use it. But this Solana is not doesn't have proven reliability. The ecosystem is really like in child stage. No tools available. In really information is really limited. They do update the documentation, but simply was born. And for the smart contracts, it uses Rust language. If you know Rust or don't afraid to try it, I recommend to try Solana, to play with Solana or Binance Smart Chain. With Solana, you have like the coolest effect if you will get into how it works. It's basically, if you will have knowledge about one of them, like about Ethereum, it will be not hard to switch to another one. They have pretty similar concepts. It's still different, but pretty similar. But you, of course, need to switch to a smart contract language. But for the start, I would say you can create a lot of applications even without creating smart contracts. For example, there are a lot of applications in the web available about reading some data from blockchain and analyzing it. So you don't need any smart contract for it. You use JavaScript, get the data, which is publicly accessible and free. You proceed it and you can show it or sell it to the people. Yeah. So how to start? How I recommend to start with it. If someone interested with it, I recommend to select one of the blockchain and play with it. So maybe one of these three, or do your research and find something else. Chia is new network new blockchain released recently. I haven't seen it, but they have a lot of hackathons going now and invest a lot of money into it. This Chia actually use Lisp on the backend. If someone like functional languages, you can use it there. Yeah, so pick some blockchain, do researches, online courses on Udemy, YouTube, or any platform. It might be a bit harder for Solana, but what is good about Solana, they have a lot of communities in Discord, and people is really like always happy to help. Really cool people there. You can find someone who will help you with it. So I recommend to try some hackathons. Participate in web blockchain hackathons. There are like tons of hackathons around it. Each blockchain trying to get developers in their own ecosystem, and they do a lot of work to create these hackathons, and like they have big investments, so you can get them some money from it and experience building something useful. Like you see, there's a lot of stuff: blockchain hackathon, digital world, China global hackathon. Это Chia. This is yeah, you see Solana provide. Solana have a lot of money invested in itself. A crazy amount of money got investments, so they can do like 1 million prize pool hackathon pretty easily. And you can see this, like how much you have participants. Beside of money, of course, you get a real experience of building something that could be used in real life. And also you will build some communication, like relations with other people, other participants. I used to participate in few hackathons, one from Solana and one from Binance with my friend, ex-colleague from Logica company. And we even get some grants from Binance and Rarible auction. That's pretty fun, it was pretty fun, and I get a lot of connections. So what else? Yeah, and of course, try to code real application. If you want to start, you need to code something real. Yeah, but you can start with pretty simple applications, of course, as I said. So probably that's all. Yeah, okay, we have enough time for questions or discussions. If you want to reach me, here's my Telegram. I don't know, happy to, if you have any questions or want to discuss all the time, we'll be happy. So we have some question. Could you please name any example of app using blockchain, and which functionality does it cover them? Okay, so there are a lot of different applications. One of the hottest topic this year is NFT, of course, and there like hundreds of auctions. They use blockchain to store data. So actual data is stored on APFS, what I showed, P2P network, and blockchain used to manage whom this NFT item belongs. And because this information can be changed by third party, it can be lost. This is kind of real proof of what someone have, what digital art they have. And it's pretty big like market of OpenSea. They use Ethereum, they use Binance Smart Chain for such things. Still growing because it's kind of new stuff. And Solana also have a boom of NFTs. They, like, people create this collections, like generate thousands of items and it sell like in 10 minutes. It's crazy stuff going here. Also really popular is kind of, it's called token economy, I would say. Farming on the blockchain. For example, blockchain. It's called also money puzzles, people call it. You can meet this term, farming. Okay, I will show some ape swap. Some farmings, people, what they use to, if you have some coins, you can invest in some pool and get like benefits. They will pay you from that. This money is stored in their pool. This also is really big stuff here. What else? It used for blockchain itself used a lot for enterprise stuff. I'm not really familiar with this stuff, but things like Amazon and Oracle, they provide blockchains for enterprises. Also, it used a lot in gaming. Oh, that's great. Really interesting. Sandbox blockchain. And this is another thing which is really heavily used in blockchain technology. So games started to use it, and what main purpose is to create the infrastructure where your items, for example, you play some game and you achieved something, and then this is with blockchain technology, it's belong to you and you can sell it on some markets. And yeah, or buy some characters as market. So Sandbox is one of the most famous stuff. So different companies, Sandbox actually provide platform where different companies like Atari or someone else can create their own games on top of it with NFT ecosystem. And yeah, most of these gaming companies currently experiment with it. Again, this topic is really in child mode, I would say, because Sandbox is not actually started yet. They still building it, but it's market already working and people, different companies build on top of it. But I think it going to start this autumn. What else? Audios, I think it's called Audios. I met this Audios. Maybe not Audios. Yes, this platform I met on Solana Hackathon. These participants of Solana Hackathon, they built in brief. I would say it's kind of SoundCloud clone, but with blockchain embedding. So if you release some music and people listen it, you get some tokens from this system. The idea is to remove like middlemen who like take money from one part and give it to you, because they have like they take like 50% of revenues to themselves usually, and this provide straight access to it. You see, they use some people like Deadmau5 to promote this stuff. Yeah. What else? So a lot of stuff.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just curious if there is any government in the world implementing blockchain as a technology, like for elections or something.
As far I know, nobody implemented it yet. But the governments experiment with it as well, because they have usually some kind of IT, I don't know, IT group, how it's called. They have IT section on the government, and they free to experiment with anything. But implementing, I don't know, that's a lot of countries trying to restrict the use of the blockchain because of different things, like telling that it can cause to like booming of darknet, promoting child pornography or something, like selling drugs. A lot of say that it uses a lot of electricity. So as far as I know, no one, but I could be wrong. Any other questions?
Okay, well, we have a couple of minutes to think of more questions. I've already shared the feedback form, and we will really appreciate if you take 1 minute to fill it in.
About projects, this hackathons is actually, let me switch slide. This hackathons a great source of the ideas for the blockchains. Like on Solana, it was like 500,000, I think, projects. And when you read it, it's pretty good idea. Some of, not all of them, but some of them. Like taking Solana. So you can go through the list and check what they have on the mind. Lending gateway. Yeah, so they have kind of presentation. So this looks like some economic application providing lending. How would they do? I don't know. They have usually have like project vision, lending portal, public chain. Lucky cat. What is it? I don't know, it's need time to read it. So here's, it's a hackathon ongoing, 93 projects. And some of them have really cool ideas. And if even you don't have like implementation and you have just the idea or such kind of presentation, it could be enough to get some investments. So usually if you have great idea and you get some prizes, they work with you later. The Solana is kind of support Solana, not only Solana, any blockchain. Pretty good example of very popular stuff is swapping sites, swap coin. Swap is kind of exchanges between cryptocurrency. Go to Dapps. It's really popular stuff because a lot of people need to exchange one coin to another one. Yeah, so something like this. Okay, if no one have questions, probably we can finish with it.
Thank you so much, Andy, for your presentation and for sharing so many insights. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on Friday. And we wish all of you a really joyful holidays or weekend or just good days ahead.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining. Hope it will be helpful for some of you. Have a nice day. See you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.